Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mamadou Bah, and today we're here with Mr. Dian Bah. He did study in Leeds Beckett University, international relation. Mr. Jan is the leader of the FNDC in the UK and also the current secretary of the foreign affairs in the for the Guinean and also in the United Kingdom here. What is the movement at the moment in Guinea? What's going on in Guinea at the moment?
And first of all, before I move to that movement, I would like to present my condolences to all the Guineans. And then yesterday there were some burial going on, young Guineans that were killed previously, and it seems like they register one Guinean was killed, and he was killed by bullet, so by the army. So I present my condolences to his family, to his friends, to the FNDC, and to the Guineans population, all the Guineans in the world.
And what is the demonstration at the moment? Why people demonstrate at the moment in around the world?
We actually demonstrating because the president want to change the law. He want to change the constitution, and the reason behind it, because he want to remain on power. So that's the reason why we are demonstrating, because the majority of Guineans are not happy with it. We know for sure that our constitution is not perfect, just like any other constitution, but it doesn't mean that people should just change it for their own interest, regardless the need of the population. So we demonstrating to prove to the Guineans and the international community that we're not happy with it.
Okay. And what the FNDC stand for?
The FNDC is the National Front to defend the Constitution. Front National pour la défense de la Constitution, the Constitution that the President want to change. So we created the FNDC in order to protect it.
What's our expectation in Guinea?
Our expectation is to see the President that sworn in 9 years ago that can actually finish his mandate in 2020 and leave, and then we're going to vote to elect another president. So that's what we expect from the government, that's what we expect from the Guineans, and that's what we expect from our constitution.
Okay. And as you just mentioned, he's to finish his powers will actually going to be end on the 2020. But and what is achievement since 2010? What is he achieved better to the country and for the people?
We've got a lot of hotels, you know. And that's what he always says, that we got of hotels. That is a fact. If for someone who used to visit Guinea 15 years ago, if you go today, if you have money, you can sleep in a beautiful hotels. And then, you know, but I don't think we should praise him for that, because given the fact that more than 80% of the population live under $1 a day, and I don't think we should praise the president for building hotels, because those hotels are not for Guineans, and I don't think that's the priority, and I'm sure that many people think the same. And then apart from that, there have been some improvement in like freedom of speech, you know. And I know recently there have been a lot of repression on journalists, you know, and even now it's going on. But when you compare it to like 10, 15 years ago, yeah, I think he's done some improvement on it. We should highlight that. And we got some power dams as well. You know, even that is not enough to provide electricity for the whole population. That hasn't moved, given the fact that the population, the demography is growing, the population is growing all the time. But he's done a little bit in terms of providing electricity, just a little bit. But when you look at the average, it's a disaster, because 7 or 10 years ago, let's say 10 years ago before him, I used to have water from the tap in my house in Conakry. But 7 years ago now, we haven't had even a single, everywhere, not even a house or an area, a particular area, everywhere, nearly everywhere in Conakry, there's not enough water coming from the tap. And then particularly in my area, there's no water from the tap like 7 years ago, from 7 years now. So in terms of that, we've not seen improvement, and it's worsened. Situations are worsening. So we expected a lot from him, just like every single population. When you, for the first time, vote and elect your own president, you expect a lot. But we've been disappointed, by his leadership. Yeah.
Well, that is very harsh, actually. And according to that improvement, where the country headed now?
The country is heading back to history, unfortunately. If I can just highlight a little bit about, the history, the political history of the country. Guinea was independent, declared independent in 1958. And by referendum, the former president, Ahmed Sékou Touré, organized a referendum to say no to the French colonies. And then after that, he was there till in 1984 when he passed away, and we had General Lansana Conté. And then when Sékou Touré actually passed away, we had military on power, where General Lansana Conté was chosen to be the president, after a lot of conflict and a lot of killings, of civilians and soldiers in between them. Then he stayed for 26 years. When he passed away, the fact that we were unfortunate that the constitution was modified, because in 2010 we had a law, and it was modified a couple of years later in order to maintain him on power for the rest of his life. In 2010, when he passed away, the scenario that happened in 1984, the same scenario happened. The military came back to power, right? And then they came to power, and then it was not coordinated very well, and they ended up giving back the power to the civilians in 2010 in general election, where the President Alpha Condé was elected. So President Alpha Condé is more than 83 years old now, and he want to modify the constitution to stand for another term. It's just it's unbelievable. When you think about it, it's agonizing. So what's going to happen if he succeeds, which I doubt, to modify the constitution and remain on power? And when he passed away, the military will come back to power, So we are heading back to history.
So what do you expect from France then?
From France alone, or actually we do not expect much from France. The only thing we ask France to do for us is to withdraw from our political, economic, our internal affairs. That's it. Because French countries in Africa are the most miserable countries in Africa, and we know it for a fact. So we do not expect France to help us, because first of all, France cannot help, and secondly, France hasn't helped anyone.
Jan, are there any division among the Guineans on the modification of the constitution?
Yes, of course. There are some divisions amongst Guineans. The majority of Guineans don't want the constitution to be changed, because they've learned from experience that it doesn't provide any good for the country. But there are some pockets of Guineans that only focus on their own personal interest, that are supporting the modification of the constitution, because they hope that if they succeed to modify the constitution, they may get jobs from the government. They only think about themselves. Yeah, but definitely there are some division amongst Guineans in terms of the modification of the constitution.
What do the African leaders think about this?
Let's just talk about African leaders a little bit. As we previously said, French-speaking countries are some of the most miserable countries in Africa, right? And this modification of the country of the constitution, it's mostly done in French-speaking countries, and then we can see in Ivory Coast that the president previously, long ago, he said he's not going to do it, but recently he's heading to do it. But when we talk about the African leaders, we talk about the African Union. And the African Union, on its Article 30, if I'm not mistaken, on its Article 30 said, governments that comes to power by unconstitutional means shall not be allowed inside the Union. So, legally speaking, loyally speaking, from the African Leaders Convention, the African Union Treaty, no African leader should support the modification of the constitution in Guinea. But at some point, some of them are intending to do it. So that's why this fight shouldn't be a Guinean fight. It should be an African fight, because if it happens in Guinea, it's going to happen in Ivory Coast. It's going to happen maybe tomorrow in Sierra Leone or in Liberia or in Senegal, So that's why African youth have to work round the clock, hand to hand, and stand really tough and block the modification of the constitution in Guinea, which in return will send a lesson to the respective presidents, saying that if it happened before, but it's not going to happen on our watch in this new generation.
Okay, and is there any tribal tension in Guinea?
There isn't any tribal tension. Sometimes they want people to read it like that. That's the image they send to people, like there is a tribal tension, because stability is not good for them, But profoundly, frankly speaking, I don't think there is any, significant tribal tension in Guinea. That is not on the plate. That is not on the table, because amongst the FNDC, we got all ethnic background, on the FNDC. So it is not affiliated to one ethnic party. So the tension might be between individuals, but talking about Guinea as well, there's not tribal tension.
And what is the expectation of the population from the president?
We just want him to clearly say he's not going to modify the constitution. And then in 2020, when his term expires, he's going to organize the election and pass the power to someone else. That's what we expect from him.
In peaceful way?
Yeah, peaceful way. That's what we expect from him.
Talking about the election, it seems like you have started the registration Guineans to vote. How is it going so far?
It's, the enrollment, it's a disaster. I feel really, I don't feel happy to say that. Honestly, frankly, I don't feel happy to say whatever topic I'm about to tackle in my country right now, it's a disaster. I feel very hurt to say that as a Guinean. But it comes a point where you have to say the truth, and try to identify what's wrong in order to be able to fix it. It's a disaster. Let me just tell you something about the enrollment. I don't know if you follow on Facebook. Children, minors like 8 years, 9 years old, primary school, they've been enrolled in some of our towns and villages in Guinea. You know, we've seen a live Facebook. People are doing videos. They are filming live, where the legal representative of the voting body or the government are encouraging children to be involved to vote. You know, it's unbelievable. We even intend like to complain about that to Amnesty International and to the European Union. We working on it as a Guinean, you know. And in abroad is not, it's not very bad abroad. But let me just like clear something now about the enrollment abroad. I am already enrolled, right? I've got my card. I'm going to receive my voting card, you know, whenever it's posted. I'm going to receive it from the embassy. But not long ago, like 2 days ago, we had a meeting with the embassy, you know.
In the UK embassy?
Yeah, the UK embassy. That has nothing to do with the FNDC. That was the Guinean coordination, you know, in the UK. So as the one in charge of the foreign affairs, I was there with the vice coordinator and another association leader, like to see what can we do together in order to get Guineans to be registered. The ambassador said to us that he popped out a voting code, a book. He said that book says you have to have your biometric passport or your consular card. Biometric passports are not issued in the UK. They issue them in Guinea. You know, in Europe, the only country that I know that you can go not to issue a straight register and maybe wait for a like couple of months or years is in France. That started a couple of months ago. In the UK, we never had it. And furthermore, and he said he's not going to issue consulate card for people to get registered, you know. And then some people came there when I was there with Guinean ID card, identity card, but they were refused to be registered on the list. You know, they were refused to have access to the voting card, to any voting card. So, according to the ambassador, that was from the high-ranking body that instructed them to do so. But unfortunately, the next day, what we found out is the opposite. We saw in Germany, we got videos in Germany, in Belgium, in France, even letters from the ambassadors that said those people that have Guinea ID card, whether they are out of updated or not, they are eligible to vote.
Mr. John, well, thank you very much again. And in 2020, we expecting the election in Guinea. Do you expect any coalition there?
Coalition, do you mean amongst the political parties?
Yes.
There are a lot of coalition going on already. But right now, the coalition is to fight, you know, is to stop the president from modifying the constitution. That's the aim of the political parties. Maybe when the president says he's not gonna modify the constitution, you know, maybe the coalition will continue a doubt, because after that, you know, you create your political party because you want to get to power. So it's going to be hard to guess what's going to happen, you know, after that. But in terms of coalitions, let's just mention recently we saw in the news that the current president, President Alpha Conde, is in contact with the former president Musa Dadis Camara, and then, you know, in order to secure his vote in Dadis region, which I think is not going to happen, you know, because first of all, that Captain Dadis is held, let me say, in custody. That's how I call it, because it's completely against the international law. You know, the article, I think, 13 of the Declaration of Human Rights says that everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own country. This former president is held in Burkina Faso for nearly 10 years now. The president refuses him to go back to Guinea. And then now, when the election is closed, it seems like he want to be in contact with him in order to secure the vote in his region. It's just, you can see how sometimes people are selfish where they are on power. You know, they only think about themselves. You know, so of course there are some coalitions, but some of them just don't make sense at all.
Okay, and can we talk about the region in Africa, why Africa is poor and whereby Africa is rich? What are the solutions?
That's a little bit of complicated question to answer, but I'm just going to try my best. Sure. You know, I'm going to do the necessary. People who try their best are losers. That's what people say. So I'm going to do the necessary. Actually, Africa is the richest continent, no doubt. Why Africans are poor? In order to try to identify the reasons, we should tackle it, you know, from the sources. Africa was victim of slavery, you know, victim of colonization, victim of, you know, all kinds of dehumanization from the West, you know, and it still continues to happen, and that's one of the reasons why Africa is rich and Africans are poor. Africans been turned inside out, upside down. You know, they don't speak their languages in the school. They don't actually learn their languages. The law is not written in their languages. Even that, can I just mention, even in the African Union, you know, treaty, and I think it's article, if I'm not mistaken, is it 25, you know, and anyway, in the African Union treaty, it's mentioned that our law can be written in African languages. But yeah, but I don't know why it's always written in French or English. That's one of the downside of African wider political and or economic weakness. Africa needs to come back to herself, you know. Teach Africans or learn Africans in African languages. You know, it doesn't mean that we should stop collaborating with the West or, you know, wherever, because right now the world has become a village. But I am sure that if you don't know yourself, you're not going to know someone else. You know,
that's right.
When you, everything you do in your life, you do it in someone else's language. What do you think? Right. Your back mind will always tell you that a person is better than you. You know, I think that's one of the aspects we can deepen in it. But poverty in Africa, it's a wide involve a wide range of answers. But for the moment, we need to get our constitutions to be respected by our leaders. Respect has a price that everyone pays for. If you do not respect yourself, what do you expect others to do? If you have a president like Alpha Condé, who does not care about the law of his own country, you know, what the difference between us and the animals in the jungle is the law. Because we have law that binds us together. That's the reason why I cannot come into your studio and take your TV or take your phone, you know, because I know I cannot do it. It's unlawful to do it, and I'm going to be arrested or jailed, you know, even not prosecuted. I'm going to be prosecuted if I do it. But the animals in the jungle, they don't have that. That's why they can fight, they can kill each other, you know. But when we start behaving like them, disrespecting our own laws and constitution, do you expect to gain respect from others? It's not going to happen.
True. Okay, I think we've done a lot talking here actually, and let's talk about social media for time below bit. I follow you on Facebook, and I can see that you talk a lot about changing in 2020. What do you expect?
I talk a lot. Okay, thank you for that. I think 2020 it's a turning point for our generation, all of us. We are lucky to have Facebook. You know, Facebook's got its like downside, and it's got good and bad sides. But we are lucky to have Facebook. As I said previously, the world has become a village where one can do something in South Africa. At the same time, live video, someone from New York and somebody flying on the plane can watch it live. You can have your breakfast in Dakar, lunch in London, and sleep in New York. And you can get people to live that moment with you all the way from Senegal to New York through social media. And secondly, the fight of ideas, or the fight for ideas, don't have border. You know, you can't stop people in the UK fighting for those in Guinea or in South Africa, you know, because they are bound by ideas. And then in 2020, I am sure that through social media, Africans all over the world are opening their eyes. You know, we can see in France, we can see in the States, in the UK here, in Germany, even in Africa. Africans are opening their eyes. They are actually facing their own, they're taking responsibility, despite the fact that most of the time their leaders, you know, like block them, stop them from moving forward for their personal interest. So 2020, it's going to be significant in the new chapter of Africa. While in Guinea, we will stop the president from modifying the constitution, I'm 100% sure. And we will stop him from moving forward, gaining another term. And Guinea anyway, Guinea is, it's used to it. I'm not flattering, I'm not praising Guinea, but Guinea was, if I don't say the first country, it was the second in West Africa to be independent, and Guinea was the first country to say face to face to General de Gaulle, we don't want you here anymore. So 2020, I'm not gonna say we're gonna teach the other African countries, you know, because it's just like not what should be said. Yeah. But we will maintain that pride of saying no to referendum, to bad referendum. We will maintain the pride to say no to the modification of the constitution, and we will do it in a peaceful way. You know, we are not going to go to war in Guinea. It's not going to happen, because Guineans and Africans as well have understood that conflict is not going to be the solution.
Brilliant. And I've got another question here. That may be a secret to answer. And which political party do you support and why?
It's not secret. You can talk about it. There's no secret in that. I am not affiliated to any political party right now, because I can see from the political parties in my country, there are a lot of games, you know, and that games are killing us. The games are killing young Guineans every day. The games are depriving Guineans from food, from health, from education. So, and speaking is the less I can do. as a human when something is wrong.
Use the voice.
Yeah, use my voice, you know, when something is wrong or when something is right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jan. And well, thank you. That's all we got for today. And thank you very much. And if you want to get more information, basically, you know where to go. And we got the website and Bah Media, and also on social media. And also, if you want to get in touch with Jan as well, or with anyone else, actually, want to be in the show, and you can get in touch with us, inshallah. When we would like to put you forward, and then we have a talk a bit more, inshallah. Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you for watching. Bye.